The Microcosmic Orbit, 小周天. We're going to look at what this practice is, why we do it, when we do it, um, and where it fits into the overall project of internal alchemy. At least from my lineage, the Longmen Pai, the Dragon Gate lineage from my teacher, Wang Liping. So I think the microcosmic orbit is an interesting practice in kind of from a social perspective. It's so popular, right? A lot of people talk about it. There are some lineages that swear by it. It's the central practice that they go to. It's also one of those practices that is not just used in internal alchemy, but it's also used in wider qigong circles and even internal martial arts in general. um, it's used, it's talked about a lot, it's practiced a lot. So what I'm going to do is talk about it from my perspective and the perspective of my teacher. And we'll look at what kinds of microcosmic orbits there are, and when we do it, and how to open it. And I'll also look at uh, the question of how important is it, right? And the answer is it's not as important as you would think. It's not that big a deal. Um, Now, I can hear some of you going, "Wait a minute, yes, it is. If you haven't opened it, you have you're not there yet. You need to open it." And I'm definitely, yeah, we need it is important to open it, but do we need methods to do that? So that's a question. And if we do need methods, what methods and when do we apply them? Okay. So first of all, there's three kinds of Zhou Tian or cosmic orbits. And I'm not talking about the Xiao Zhou Tian and the Da Zhou Tian, the micro and the macrocosmic. Those are another distinction we'll go into in this talk as well. But there is in opening the Xiao Zhou Tian. So the Xiao Zhou Tian is starts from the bottom of the body, in the perineum. It actually starts for us. We started in the lower field, dropped down to a point called the Gate of Life and Death. And that is basically it's a valve that opens and closes the urinal duct and the seminal duct that goes into your private parts, the external gear, as it were. And so it's really close to where the external equipment attaches to the body. It might be a little different for women. Sorry, I don't have that experiential experience myself. So you might have to adjust that a bit. But generally, that's where we start. And then you go up the coccyx, up the spine, and there's three main gates on the back of the spine that we need to work through, three barriers, passes that we need to go through, the guans, and then come up top and over the top of the head to the top. Now there's different routes to go down. We can go straight down inside the central line of the body, down through the three dantians, the three fields, or you can come over the front and go through the upper magpie bridge, down the 12-storied pagoda, and down the front, the sternum, and more on the outside of the body, right? And then round under. So there's a couple different routes we can do. Also, the route for at the bottom can be different depending if you have chujia, you've left you're a monk or not. If you're within a domestic situation, you have family and having kids is important to you, then there's one route that you'll do. If you've left that behind and made a commitment to being a monk and not having kids, then there'll be a different route, which I'm not going to go to in this video because I don't want any of you guys messing yourselves up. Because if by choosing the route for the monks, you can actually shut down some of the stuff that you need for having kids. So we have, that's the main path, right? So it's a circuit, right? And this is called xiao, small. Zhou Tian. Zhou is, yeah, basically a circuit, going around. And then Tian is heaven or celestial, right? And so this is an important circuit that we open in internal alchemy. And the way that we approach it in our lineage is first we open the root. First we open the circuit. And this is called the qi lu zhou tian. So we open the root of energy, qi, through that circuit. And this is just like you're building a road. You don't have a car driving on the road yet, but you're building a road, and you'll feel energy going through the whole circuit. In outside of the lineage, in sort of popular qigong, kind of in the public, I don't know about other closed lineages. I mean, everyone has their own way of talking and working with this stuff, but I think more publicly, this is often called the microcosmic orbit. When you've opened, you get energy going through it. For us, it's actually not yet. We don't really, I mean, call it the Qilu Zhou Tian, but it's not actually a real microcosmic orbit yet. Another way we call it is just rendu armai, so opening tongla rendu armai, is opening the two channels, the ren and the du channels that go up. So one goes up the back, one comes out the front, right? But it's not full on cosmic orbit yet, right? It's just preparation. There's qi going through it for sure, right? So it's not yin, this is qi. But there's no car on the road yet. And so the second kind is called the yeti, the yeti zhou tian. The yeti is the liquid form, the liquid body, the liquid form of the zhou tian. And this is the next step, and it feels kind of like there's like a sphere of energy that goes around the orbit. So now you have a car on the road, right? So the first one, you'll feel qi, you'll feel yang qi going through the circuit, right? It feels so heat and you know, that all those nice qi sensations that go through, right? That's just the road. So once you have a car on it, then it's something else, right? And that's the second level. Now we're starting to approach the real Xiaozhou Tian, the real microcosmic orbit. When I say real, I mean it from perspective of our lineage. Like, I'm not trying to say that other lineages are fake or anything. It's just, for us, that's the way we talk about it. So we know that we have to keep going, and don't stop with the Qilu Zhou Tian. You want to go to the Yeti Zhou Tian, and then the next one. And so Yeti Zhou, the liquid cosmic orbit. The liquid is. It feels really cool. It can the energy. It's quite. It's a bit more dense, full. It has substance to it. There's definitely a substance there, and it can go quite quickly or slowly, depending on what kind it is. So there's different kinds of substances that can be the Yeti, and with my teacher, I've experienced a couple different ones, and they're pretty intense. And then finally, we have the Dan Dao Zhou Tian, the way, the elixir way Zhou Tian. So Dan means elixir, basically. Dao, right? So for Taoist, the Dao, the way, the Dao, Zhou Tian. And this is the real microcosmic orbit. And this is when we have an elixir from the elixir field inside the body, usually a lower elixir field at this point. And then we formed the elixir, and then we're reverting it. It's being reverted into the Xiaozhou Tian, right? So there's a difference between Jiedan and Huangdan. So Jiedan is to form the elixir, and that's when we work at bringing our qi into the lower field and creating an elixir there, right? The qi ju dan tian, the qi ju xia tian, bringing it into the lower field. And that's really important. That's a lot of the work that we do with Master Wang and the work that I teach in my courses. It's learning how to do that. Is learning how to bring the energy, the qi, into the lower field. We'll talk more about that a little bit later in this talk. So once you form the elixir, then it may want to revert. It may want to go somewhere in the body. And very often, especially for men, it'll might want to go down and then through the orbit, right? And so this is a supercharged, energetic sphere. It definitely has substance. What I mean by that, it's dense, it's heavy, it's substantial. It's very substantial. You'll feel a weight in the lower space, and we put this through the circuit, and that's for us. That's the main microcosmic orbit, and I have a friend who saw Master Wang do this. I didn't see it with my own eyes. I wish I did. My friend Mark saw it and he told me about it. And he said it was so cool. You could, because he asked Master Wang about it. Master Wang said, "Yeah, sure, I'll show you." And he went, "Doop," and he was just standing there talking, and he did it, and you could see this, the skin. There's something underneath the skin moving along that line and came down. You could actually, it's like a bump that moved. So there very much is something in there, and the Taoists have a term for it, which I don't know. Mark knew it, but it was something like the mouse moving under the skin or something. I can't do it. I'm not there yet. Working towards it. But that's for us. That's the full microcosmic orbit. Now there is one called the neidan zhoutian. So neidan means awareness, and this is one where you use your awareness to go through the circuit. And for us, that's a no-no. If you're using your neidan is very, very important. Learning how to use awareness is very, very important. But it's interesting. This is one area where if you're just using awareness, then it's imagination, which is a nice word for delusion, and it's dangerous. It can actually be dangerous. You can you can get into qi deviation, stuff like that. So you know, you're working with a substance. You're working with qi going through the system. There is another one that I learned from another lineage before I met Master Wang, and that was using the fascia, the physical, very physical part of the body to activate each vertebra on the way up. And it was a Taoist lineage within a martial arts lineage that had been absorbed and used. And it was a really interesting practice. And so that's another one that Master Wang doesn't talk about, but I've experienced with this other teacher. And it really helped me prepare the way for the qi lu, the route of qi zhoutian, and then the yeti zhoutian. And so keep your ears open for that as well. So yeah. So we have the different paths. We have 3 kinds, depending on what kind of substance you're putting through the circuit, and that's what differentiates these different kinds of microcosmic orbit. Now, one thing I want to chat about is methods do not equal opening the microcosmic orbit. So I'm going to repeat that. Methods aren't the thing, right? Methods can be useful tools to help us open it, but you don't need to know the methods to be able to open it. And this, I think you can apply this to a lot of different things in internal alchemy. I think I love methods and techniques, but it's important not to be too greedy or be limited by them, right? To think that we need the methods to be able to do it. So with Master Wang, I was on retreat one time with some people, and there was a monk there, and I asked him about the Xiao Zhou Tian, and Master Wang sort of went, "Yeah, you guys why are you so focused on the Xiao Zhou Tian? Like, why, you know, it's not the most important thing. It's almost a side product of practice, right? So what I mean is you don't need to know methods to open it. It can open spontaneously from our practice. And that practice, the most important thing for internal alchemy is qi ju xia tian, right? Qi ju xia tian is the qi accumulates in the lower field. The qi gathers in the lower field. That's the thing. That's what we're working on, is figuring out how to get our qi to accumulate there, whether it be jing qi or shen. So I'm using qi in a broader term here, because I think that's what that expression refers to. It's not just qi, it's jing qi shen, and then refining jing into qi in the lower field. And using shen, we can put shen in the lower field too and work with it there. And that's the thing, right? If you can figure out how to do that, then the microcosmic orbit will often just naturally open. And that's the way it happened for me. So I did the Qilu microcosmic orbit, sorry, the Qi root microcosmic orbit and the liquid, the two kinds, right? Um, and I had some success with the Dan Dao, but it's not there, not like Master Wang. And that was just working with the lower field, like just working it on retreat. And then all of a sudden it was just spontaneous open. And oftentimes it would spontaneously open during sitting quietly in stillness after I had applied methods and techniques, done the Yo Wei stuff, entered into a Wu Wei state, and it'll spontaneously open, right? So for me, that's how I did it, and that's what Master Wang usually teaches for a lot of his students. And there's reason for that because the methods can be a little dangerous, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So are there methods? Yes, there are methods in our lineage for opening the microcosmic orbit. And the main method that's used is called Jin Yang Huo Tui Yin Fu. And that is translated as advance the yang fire and retreat the yin talisman. Nice big long poetic name. I love these big long poetic names. I get off on that kind of stuff. But it's basically the fancy name for a method, a breathing method that works with consciously in a Yo Wei state, working to open up the microcosmic orbit. And it coordinates breathing and qi activation and mobilization and yin, and even some body movements as well to activate that whole thing. So Jin Yang Huo Tui Yin Fu, it's the method that is used specifically to open that. Now, like I said, you don't need it, right? And in this video, I'm not going to teach it here because it's dangerous. It needs you need to be with a teacher. There are things that can go wrong with it that can mess you up, and especially when there's the 3 passes through on the back channel, and especially the Yujian Guan. The Yujian Guan is the jade pillow, the barrier of the jade pillow. It's really tricky to go through, and there's a very specific thing we do with the eyes and moving the skin, not the spine, but actually moving the skin and the breath and getting it just right to go through there. You mess that up, it's not good. So generally on retreats, Master Wang just gets us to focus on the lower field and have the opening happen spontaneously. Yeah. The method, the advanced yang fire and retreat yin talisman, yeah, it just basically uses special breathing where we breathe up and then another breathe down, and then the breaths, the inhale and exhale are specific times depending on. It's actually 2 techniques, right? So advanced yang fire is one, and then retreat yin talisman is the second one, and they're used together, and you use them sort of at specific times in the day with certain breathing. Certain lengths of breaths and ways of activating it. And then there's certain amount of times you do it as well. So you keep count, all that kind of stuff. And it's fun. If you get a chance to learn it from a teacher, go for it. But don't feel like you're missing something that without it you can't advance in your practice. It's not the case. The method does not equal the thing. Right? Methods are ways of getting the thing. If you can get the thing, if you can get to the thing, whatever that thing is, opening a channel, activating a lower field, opening your celestial eye, you get to that thing without a method, that's the best, right? But definitely, I'm not saying methods aren't important. They definitely are. But if you have the destiny to come across this one, great. But from my experience, and what Master Wang teaches, you don't need it. I didn't need it for opening mine and having some getting results with what I did. So I don't think you do either. Okay, so that's the microcosmic orbit. It's, you know, it's a big, it is a part of the practice, but it's not the main part of the practice for our lineage. I know there are lineages out there of internal alchemy and qigong and stuff that do really focus on that, and that's great. Every lineage is different. Like if you're in one of those lineages, then this might not apply to you, right? Because your lineage might have other ways of talking about it and learning it, right? So just follow what your teacher's teaching and go with that. But if you're interested in how we do it, or you're a part of this lineage, then there you go. Okay, so thanks for the talk, and I'll see you next time.